Still is Australia's most trusted brand of garden power tools, backed by 95 years of German engineering excellence. To get your hands on their range, visit your local Still dealer today or visit still.com.au.
Garden Express are Australia's leading mail ordering service, offering a wide range of quality gardening products. Each week on the Garden Gurus Live, the team at Garden Express will share a weekly offer. So make sure after today's show you jump online and visit their website.
Good morning. Welcome to the Garden Gurus show. I'm Joanne Harris from the Guildford Garden Centre, and we have another great show for you this week. We've got lined up and we're here ready to answer all your questions. So get them in and we'll try and answer as many as possible. How's your spring gardening going? Our gurus have been busier than ever. They're digging, they're planting, sprouting, weeding away in their gardens. You'll get to see all the action and a sneak peek of this Saturday's episode number 10. We also have a darling deal on some Daphne Princess Perfume plants today, and we'll be joined by our good friends at Garden Express to hear all about that in a moment. Later, I'll be sharing with you my gorgeous plants of the week. And of course, don't forget all those gardening questions. Get them in. You've got a chance to win some prizes, and make sure you include some locations to help me answer them. So we're going to head straight over to the boys at Garden Express and have a chat with David about this wonderful award-winning Daphne Perfume Princess. Are you there, David?
Joanne, how are you going? Yes, I am.
Hey, how are you today?
Yeah, really good, thank you. It's plenty of rain happening here in Melbourne again.
Yes. One of our regulars, Tyson, has let us in on that you're very wet Victoria this morning.
Yeah, and I see Tyson's from Baronia, so just around from Baronia, where Lilydale had some massive flooding under the train station there.
Ooh.
So yeah, it's all go if you're a duck.
It's not just rain, is it? It's actually quite bad at the moment. And I have to say, we have this wonderful day today. We've got a really beautiful spring day happening. So sorry, guys, in Victoria. However, you've got some good news for us. What have you got? You're offering us the lovely Daphne Perfume Princess.
Yes, Daphnes are just fabulous, aren't they, for their fragrance? And the Perfume Princess is a more recent release, 2016 award-winning. I think we're going to see the clip in a minute about it all. But, yeah, it's a new variety, super big clusters of blooms, highly fragrant. You can see the size of them there on the screen. And they flower all the way down the stems. So you just get this intense fragrance wherever you have it planted. So good recommendation is, put in a pipe by the door or somewhere where that fragrance can come through the window of your home and you can enjoy it every day.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So, in wintertime when not a lot is flowering, it starts flowering and then goes right on through spring. And I love the fact, David, that it tolerates the cold and the hot climates. So pretty much all of us can grow this plant.
Yeah, they've put the best of it together. Daphne is one of those things that it's really difficult to propagate and quite sometimes, the original ones are a little bit hard to grow, but this Perfume Princess brings all of the best of the genetics together and gives it that longevity. So longest flowering season, highest fragrance, all of those wonderful things.
No wonder it won the awards at the national conference. It's also one that you don't have to do a lot of pruning of or even know how to prune. It's really a tip pruning process, isn't it, to take off the dead buds?
That's pretty much all you do with it. It establishes itself quite quickly. It's kind of got a little bit of a spreading habit, but first it gets a little bit upright. So you get this really beautiful bush, probably the ones that I've seen in my garden, and my father-in-law's got a dozen of them on his front porch. So that fragrance is delicious. But it probably gets up to about 800-900 millimeters high, nearly a meter. Nice shrubby plant.
So it's a great one for a pot too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then you probably do a little bit more of that pruning just to keep your shape. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, well, it's a fabulous one. And what price have you put on this today?
So a regular is $26. We've got this one for $17.90 in a 140 ml pot. So you're getting a a quite decent plant there.
Yeah.
And, it's a ripper deal that we've got packaged up really nicely in its own box and shipped out to you.
Fantastic. Well, I think everyone should get into that. It's a deal. It's a great deal as always, but it's a beautiful hardy plant that just about anybody can grow. I know when people come into the shop, into the garden centre, they'll often say, "Oh, I can't grow a Daphne," and I'll say, "You have to try this one because you can grow this one."
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really quite easy. I mean, Daphnes probably don't want to have super wet feet, but they are tolerant of most of your different soils. And as you said, in a pot would be beautiful. So whilst you've got that flowering, make sure your pot gets a reasonable amount of water, because you want those blooms to be taking all of that up and giving you off those beautiful flavours.
And given that they normally like a bit of an acid soil, not a highly acid soil, but they do like a bit of an acid soil, it'd be worth feeding them with the Azalea Camellia fertiliser.
Yeah, perfect choice there for that. So, they'll thrive on that.
Yeah, fantastic. Show us the plant again, David. I interrupted you when you were about to.
Yeah, I just thought it would be good to bring one of them in so people could see. It just got some little buds starting in the top there.
That's a fabulously growing one.
But yeah, they're very lush and healthy, and you don't get many marks or scars on them. They're very, very tolerant and very beautiful.
Get in and get your plant off Garden Express. Get onto the website and get that bought right now. I'm assuming, like most of your other specials, it's not going to last long, so the people really should get onto it.
I think we've got plenty of stock of this one. It sort of comes around this time of year every year for us. It's readily available on our web store, so I think you're going to be pretty good with that. We've got a Halloween special email coming up this afternoon, so some creepy and wonderful things happening, and the boys and girls have been very busy here on the store.
So you have an e-news that comes out, or an email that comes out from Garden Express?
Yes, we do. Again, you can register your interest for that on the web store.
Yeah.
And we send out some Friday frenzies, and on Mondays and Wednesdays, I think we also pop out a few new releases and other bits and pieces that are happening on our store, just to keep everyone up front with the more current varieties that are coming in, because we have so much on the go, seasonal products coming in, and of course everyday lines that we like to tell people when there's fresh stock available.
Oh, that's well worth it. I think everyone should get onto that. Look, if for some reason your garden's full and you can't fit even just one more Daphne, and at least get into the onto the e-news there, onto the emails, and get the information that comes out. That's great service, David.
We have some great loppers and pruners so that you can prune up and make some more space to fit some more products.
There you go. There you go. See, there's always an answer, always a way when you're a gardener. David, thanks for your time this morning. It's been great, and we'll catch up with you next week. I doubt. I don't doubt. I mean,
undoubtedly, yes, Joanne.
Undoubtedly. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right. Thanks. That was fabulous. Look, it's a gorgeous plant. I know it's in our garden centre at the moment. As David said, it's brand new out. Well, not brand new out. Sorry, but it's back out on the market now. So if you're wanting one, get onto Garden Express, and if you miss out there, get into your garden centre and you'll get one for sure. So let's get on to some questions and get as many answered as we can for you. David's in Sydney, and David has asked, I have a frangipani tree that has never flowered with an attached photo. Am I seeing flowers ready to bloom soon? Yes, you are, David. So that's the bloom starting to flower. Look, there's a number of reasons why frangipanis won't flower. One, it's generally that they don't have enough sunlight. And keep in mind that they do take 2 years to flower. They're a subtropical, tropical tree, so you need to protect it from the wind. You may have some of that, the colder wind in Sydney. The other thing that stops them from flowering is too much water. So if you overwater this, it will put in less flowers. It'll just start growing as much as it can. The other thing that can stop it from flowering, obviously if you're not feeding it with a good fruit and flower or good mineral fertilizer, but the fact is that these trees can last for about 100 years. So, and they can get very, their branches can get very crisscrossed. And if you do that, then the flower buds aren't in the sunlight. and they're in too much shade. So you need to make sure that you prune out your tree well and keep it nice and open so that the branches don't cross and create that shade that stops them from flowering. So get out there. Maybe just your tree may have been young. I can't remember how long you said. But yeah, obviously it's starting to flower now. So that's great. Okay, so we're in Vic Park in Perth. And Jade has asked, I've recently renovated and we took out an old bathtub. I want to use it as a planter. How much soil should I fill it with? As in half the tub or more or less? And would you recommend a plant in the tub? It has a drain hole. Hopefully that that will be okay. Happy to plant flowers or veggies or herb garden. I'll let you decide. Okay, great. Look, Jade, this bird bath, I keep calling it that, don't I? This bath doesn't look like a huge 6-foot long bath, but if you look at a wine barrel, it takes about 4 bags of good premium potting mix, which is what you're going to want to use as a good premium potting mix. You probably want to fill it because the soil will compact. You want to fill it almost to the top and let it then compact down. It's a really good idea to put some, because there's not a lot of drainage in them, you've only got one hole, I would tip it slightly so that it's level on the bottom so that it will actually drain well and not all just flow to one end. And then also put some gravel or something in the bottom of it so that the drainage is a little bit better. If this is a fiberglass bath, which I think it looks like, obviously, drill some holes in it would be a good idea also to just give it more drainage. To me, I would probably use it as a large planter for maybe a herb garden would be great. Even what I'm about to talk about in our plant of the week, you could use those also. It could be used for a veggie area, but I would probably consider it for using it for herbs and put it close out by your kitchen maybe, and then you've got it close to your kitchen area. So, yep, I hope that helps you, Jade. Denise in Geraldton. So Geraldton's north of Perth. Hello, can you help me? I need a recommendation on a mini cherry tree that I can grow in a pot and where I won't need 2 trees to get fruit from. Where would the best place to buy it from me? Okay, so the first thing, Denise, is that I don't know that you can grow a cherry tree in Geraldton, to be honest. One, it's the hot wind that you get up there and the very windy conditions, but also you don't, I think, you don't generally go below 7 degrees. And even the low chill, even the low chill cherries need to go below 7 degrees for them to set fruit. Look, they hate strong prevailing winds because, of course, that will interfere and affect the pollination. So I'm really not sure if you can grow them at all. If you want to try one, I think I've said this before, I grew tulips in the Northwest. They didn't last very long, but I had a great fun doing it and I really enjoyed the whole process. So you may want to try that if your budget allows. And if that's the case, I would probably try a self-fertile low chill variety that came out. It was either last year or the year before, called Royal Crimson. That's the one I would try if you're really determined to try it. Make sure that it's in a sheltered position and see how you go. But my recommendation would be that you probably couldn't. Now, you can buy it from Guildford Garden Centre, but you can buy it from most garden centres that carry fruit trees. But you won't buy it at this time of the year. I would imagine, like us, most garden centres will be sold out of their winter stock. But you can put your name down. Get on the website, put your name down, and we can contact you next year when they're about to come. We send out all sorts of videos and links to things to help you grow these. So by all means, let's try it and we'll help you with it. But I'm not convinced that it's going to go particularly well for you. All right. So thanks, Denise. Sydney, we're back in Sydney with Rachel. Hi, I just saw your segment on fruit fly management. What is the name of the paint on the fruit fly bait? Which insecticide did you use to put in the hanging baits? So the hanging bait, now, Rachel, two things. We have fruit fly, we have the Queensland fruit fly and we have the Western thrip. Now, here in the West, you need to buy the one that you'll find here, and I'm trying to think of the name of it, but most garden centres, if you go into them, they will only have that particular variety of the bait. You can buy it with the bait bottle and hang it in your tree. I suggest that you hang 2 in a very large tree, anything 4 to 5 meters, probably needs 1 on either side. Otherwise, you can put in, say, 3 between 2 trees. And then I think what you're referring to is Dr. Buggerlugs did a segment, and I think he used Nature's Way. It's a Yates product, and what you can do is you can spray it on one part of the tree, and you can actually see the bugs attracted to it, and then you know that you've got them. You need to bait. You need to do 2 or 3 things when you're working on a natural or organic way of dealing with something. Make sure that you use 2 or 3 things to make it work. Now, netting the tree is a possible way also, or netting each of the fruit. But yeah, try the Nature's Way, and the fruit fly, you will buy that from the garden centres. So now we're back in Parkerville with Greg, and Greg is saying, good morning, Joanne and team. Good morning, Greg. We're currently dealing with plenty of onion grass coming up from surrounding areas. Other than a very long process of digging out meticulously and not leave anything behind, is there any other way to deal with this on a large property? It would take a substantial time to get rid of it. Greg, it would. You can mow it. If you continually mow it, you weaken the plant. So this could take quite some time, but you need to make sure that you never let it flower. If it flowers, you'll find that it will then just spread vigorously. Even when you're digging them out, you have to be extremely careful, because if you leave any of the little corms behind, it almost says thank you and comes up even quicker and bigger. So mow it, and that may help. I actually don't know of any chemical that works well with the onion grass. Good luck. Happy mowing. Okay, Roger's in Victoria. What's eating my pansy flowers? I can't find any slugs or snails. Well, I would have said slugs or snails. You might find earwigs. They might do it, not earwigs, sorry, slaters. Slaters might get up. If you haven't got enough mulch on your garden and enough wood for them to process and to munch through, then they may, in fact, I've seen them do it on primulas in my garden once when I planted a whole tray of seedlings, and the next morning I just had all this colony of them just hanging off the top. So you might find it's that. Go out in the morning, first thing in the morning, last thing at night, just before the sun goes down or before the sun comes up, and you can usually see what's happening to your plant. All right, so we're now in Balladura in WA, and it's Vanette. Vanette's asked, following on from my question last week about what was eating my little nectarines, I've sent through some photos so you could help me figure out what I can do about saving my nectarines. Okay, so I did have a look at the photo, and it could be a number of things. Could be slugs, could be earwigs, rats. Although, and I can see on one of them there that maybe I can see teeth marks. It's a little bit hard for me to see. It's quite a small photo. That could well be it also. Also stink bugs. I know that they've just started coming into the nursery, so it might be stink bugs as well. It's really hard to tell, but I think that might be it. Vanetta, I wish I could give you a better answer. And perhaps if you cut some of those off or bring some into the garden centre, because it looks like on one of the photos that you might even have some sort of mold, fungus, something like that on it too. And that could be from the after effect of it being eaten, or it will be something else. So why don't you bring them in, and the girls at the garden centre can at least help you with that, and we can get right to the bottom of the answer for you. So we're going to swing back into Ringwood out in Victoria, and Lauren has asked, I have bought some kangaroo paw bush zest plants. I'm wondering if it's possible to propagate or divide them so I can try landscaping my yard for a little less dosh. How do you go about it? Yeah, we all want to do that. And that's the beauty of plants, isn't it? That's something that you can do. Okay, so I'm not a propagator. I'm not a grower, but I have had some experience, and I would suggest that you wait till it finishes flowering. I would do it just before the growing season, so that once you have planted it, once you have separated it up, you can, you can then separate it, use a nice sharp spade, clean spade, or use your secateurs once you've bleached them. I use lemon juice. Some people use bleach, others use alcohol, rubbing alcohol, but clean them, because you can end up with fungal spores in the soil that you then cut into the thing. So keep them nice and clean each time you make a cut. Cut them in half, use a spade, put it through it, and then you can start propagating them that way. So by division would be the only way that I would know how to do kangaroo paws. And I think it's probably the safest. In the warmer period, not necessarily in autumn. Autumn, I think you can then end up with cold weather, and you'd end up with some black spot, perhaps some black ink spot on them. So try that. All right, and we're off to Adelaide, and Leonie has asked, my first year potted fuchsias, and yesterday, today and tomorrow are looking very healthy, but not looking like flowering anytime soon. I've given them long-term fertilizer pellets and liquid fertilizer every few weeks. Is there anything else I should do, please? Yeah, there's a couple of things you can do. With your liquid fertilizer, make sure that that is not a high nitrogen. So as long as it doesn't have high nitrogen in it, because high nitrogen will be at growth at the expense of flowers. Okay, so if you're wanting growth, that's what you use, but otherwise you need a good, well-balanced fertilizer. Something like Eco-Vital is a really good one. Even Power Feed is a good one for something like your fuchsias. Now, fuchsias flower on new growth. So you said here that it's only a 1-year plant, so it may be that it's coming up to flowering, and they're flowering now, so it might be starting to grow. They flower on new growth, and they need to be cut and pinched out right through that season. So during the flowering season, as the flowers start to die, pinch them out, tick prune them, in other words, and you'll find that they will come up better, they'll flower more, and you'll keep your plant much more compact. They love to be fed, all right? So they love a feed, and they can take it once a month. Never fertilize your fuchsias or anything when it's dry soil. So wet the plant first, and then use the fertilizer. You can find also that when you're using fertilizer so much, even though the plant does require it, some of the fertilizers that we have a bit of salt in them, and they can actually end up being quite salt laden in the soil. So flush the soil every month or two, and that will keep them from doing that. So hopefully you'll get some flowers on your fuchsias. If not, just keep tip pruning them through the season as they grow, and next year you'll get some good flowers. Now, your Brunsfelsia, or your yesterday, today, or tomorrow, is such a beautiful plant. I love this plant. And it does grow all over the place, even though it's actually technically a tropical plant. If you put it in the right position, so morning sun, afternoon shade, I think if you put it in afternoon shade, it's too hard for it. And it does like a fertilizer. They won't flower in the full summer, and they won't flower in the shade. Although I have seen some in dappled light, which is technically a shaded area, and they have flowered quite well. So again, keep it pruned, fertilize it with something like Eco-Vital, or give it a good mineral fertilizer so that it's got a good balance fertilize, and then you should see some flowers on it, hopefully anyway, because it's a beautiful plant. The Brunsfelsia, just for everybody's knowledge, the Brunsfelsia have the most beautiful little flat flower, perhaps the size of a 50-cent piece, and it starts out purple, and that's yesterday, and today it becomes mauve, and tomorrow it will be white. So your whole plant has what looks like 3 different coloured flowers on it. It's really beautiful. Enjoy it. Okay, so Euler, I think that's how you pronounce your name, in Victoria. She's perplexed about her roses. Last year the roses were pale pink and full, and this year they are flowering red and small. Have never experienced this dilemma. I grew roses from cuttings. They were pink and the first full year flowered. I didn't prune them, and this spring they are flowering red and small and single. All right, so since you've grown from cuttings, they may well be that they've reverted back and that they didn't have a good, strong graft to then grow on. Or roses can also change colour. You may have noticed in the summertime when it turns really hot that a pink rose can turn almost white. The opposite can happen when you have a really wet incursion and a cold incursion. And I know, and you're in Victoria, so very well it could be the weather that's done it as well. Although given that you've done it from cuttings, I kind of think that maybe it's reverted back. But it could be the weather as well. It could be interesting if you gave a rose grower a call and give them the name of the rose and just see what they have to say, because they may come up with a better answer, or at least give you a definitive answer to yes, it's reverted back, or no, it's because of the type of weather that you guys are having at the moment. And certain roses will do it. Not all roses change. Some roses will stay completely pink and a really good color right through the summertime, and others won't. So it just depends on what it is also. Okay, North Haven in South Australia, and Hannah has asked, my hedge is getting bald patches all the way through and the new growth has curly leaves. What's happening? Well, I'm not sure, Hannah, because we really need to know what that hedge is to know what's happening. It could be a number of things. Can you please get back to us with the name of the hedge? And if you send in a photo, it would be even better. And next week, we'll answer that question for you in a much fuller way. Okay, so a photo has been sent. The guys are going to sort that out. In the meantime, I'm going to go on and answer another question, and Hannah will try and get back to you with a better answer, okay? All right, so Tyson, of course, is from Victoria. Good morning, Tyson. Thank you so much for being there every week for us. I really appreciate it. And Tyson says, hi, Joanne. Can I plant a Snapdragon Magic Carpet mixed dwarf seeds in the ground or somewhere else? Can you please give me some tips and advice? Well, Tyson, I wonder if that's the seeds that you won last week. Okay, so look, Snapdragons are pretty easy to grow. I tend to put things into seed raising mix first, and I put them into some little cups that you can then just plant straight into the ground rather than having to prick the seed out or prick the seedling out and put it into the soil. So you might want to look at getting some eco cups or eco planting pots, plant them into that with some good seed raising mix and then put them into the soil. Leave them till they're about probably 4 weeks old, and then you can plant them in pretty easily. I wouldn't be putting any seeds into your garden at the moment, though. From what I hear, it's really wet, and I think that most of those will just get washed away. So maybe wait until after this really heavy rain's gone from you. Thanks, Tyson. Okay, Whittlesea in Victoria, and Marie has asked, hi, my lemon tree has gall wasp in it. I've cut back part of it, but it still needs to be cut back more, I think. Most of the old galls do. I need to cut these out, or can they be left? You can leave the old galls and the way you can tell if it's an old gall, it'll have little holes all through it, meaning that the gall wasp, the larva, has actually it's developed and it's come out and it's doing its damage on everybody else's tree now. So yes, you can leave the old galls on. You can prune them back, like Dr. Bugalug showed us last week, and get rid of them. If you find that you've got a small tree and you're almost pruning it right back to nothing, back to the stalk or the trunk at least, then you might want to get a potato peeler, a really good sharp one. Hold the gall in your hand so that the gall would be sitting against your hand to give it some pressure, and then peel one edge of the gall off until you can see the little holes. And when you see the holes, that will then show it will expose the bug, the gall, the wasp to the light, and then it will die. Now you need to do the other side also, but you have to be really careful when you do it, because if you peel it right back and peel both sides back together, then you've ring barked the tree, and it's not going to, that branch will die. So very carefully you can do it that way as well. Okay, so good luck with that. But there is also, I should just let you know, there is a preventative gall wasp. And if you use that on your tree, it stops them from being able to settle on your tree as easily, so that you won't get as much. You may still get some, but you won't get as much. I've just been treating a tree recently, was completely covered in it, and I ended up having just to prune it right back. It was so bad. So try and reduce the numbers at least, and get out there and get some of the gall wasp prevention. Okay, so we got through a few questions, and now I thought we would look at our plants of the week. So I've brought in 3 plants this week. Oops, and I've put them a long way away, so I'm just going to duck down and get them. You think you're organised and you're not. I've just got one more. Okay, so what we thought we would do, what I thought I'd do this week is blackberries, raspberries, and loganberries. Let's start with the loganberry. The loganberry is, in fact, was developed from the blackberry and the raspberry. Okay, so it's more sturdy than blackberries and raspberries. It's far more disease resistant, and it's actually frost resistant, which is good for then those of you that live in the areas that get a heavy frost. It's thornless, so it's a nice easy one to deal with also. There we go. I'm not very good at getting the right side of there. Now it has long canes. They grow. It's a plant that will last for about 15 years. It has very long canes, and so you'll need to tie those canes up. I tend to do it because they fruit on second year canes. It's best to then tie the canes separately. So what I tend to do is the old canes that are going to fruit this year, I'll tie to the left or right, and the other ones I'll take them over to the other side. So then you've got one side of your plant is fruiting and one side will fruit the next year. Then when it comes to pruning time, you cut off the old canes and let the new ones come through, and then on the other side will fruit the following year, and then this one is coming up ready for, again, the year after that. You need a good, well-composted soil. They love a good, rich soil, okay? And they last for, like I said, around about 15 years. You get a huge amount of fruit out of those. So because they're frost resistant, you can grow these in warmer climates. I would be inclined to put them into a good area that has maybe morning sun only and not a lot of wind. So they don't like the wind. And especially that hot, dry wind will dry them out. But you can grow these in Perth and in warmer climates. Same with the raspberry. The one I've brought in today is a Tulamine, and it needs a cooler climate. So these are the ones that we sell to people in Perth and the hills, down south, etc., like that. You certainly wouldn't want to be on the coast and trying to grow one of these. But There is one called the Heritage, which is a heat tolerant one, and it's very disease resistant. It doesn't need a trellis, and it fruits on the first year growth. So you can then plant it in a pot. It's not a massive one, unlike the blackberry and the loganberry that will grow up to about 2 meters tall and very long canes. The Heritage raspberry doesn't. It's smaller, and you can grow it in a large pot. Keep them all out of the wind, and remember that most berries are biennial, right? So they're a perennial plant, but their canes are biennial. So unlike the raspberry that doesn't have biennial and it grows on the first cane, the blackberry is the same, all right? This is a thornless one. This particular one is Chester, all right? But you do get, there's about 3 different thornless ones that I know of that you can grow. This is a large one. It can grow easily to around about 2 meters tall. It is one of the best. It flowers, it's self-fruiting, and it fruits at the end of summer. So if you had one of each of these, you're going to extend, and you had the blackberry, this particular one, Chester, is going to take your fruiting on right into close to winter time. So it really extends the season out. You get a huge yield of fruit out of this also. Again, they live to about 10 to 15 years. All berries like their soil to be between 5.5 and say 7, right? Blackberry, perhaps a little bit more acid. It prefers to be 6 to 6.5. The other 2 will kind of take it anywhere between that. But feed it with an acid-loving fertilizer if you're in Perth, or if you want to have it posted to you. I would be looking at the Parkerville blueberry fertilizer. It's perfect for all of these fruits. But if you're not, and if you can't get hold of something like that, just an azalea camellia fertilizer would do really well for you too. So yes, I thought we would just talk about fruiting things. There's a lot of emphasis on fruiting and veggies and so forth in our gardens at the moment, and these are possible. The one thing I guess is that if you got the raspberry Heritage, you can grow those in pots. If you've got the other 2, if you wanted to plant any of the others, and they're the bigger canes, make sure that you keep them separate and that you don't try and fill in a small gap, because that's not going to work. I know that the raspberries, the bigger ones, they can actually, and also the blackberries, they'll send out runners under the ground and then they come up. The best thing to do is, if you've got a smaller garden, take those off. Just keep it to the main one, or move it, right? So get rid of the main one and use the new one that's coming up. But you need a big space. And they say, I think the professional growers use about 5 meters between each shrub. So that's how much space you need to have. You can grow these. Perhaps was it Jade that was asking about the bath? Perhaps she could plant a berry in the baths. Choose her favourite one, and it would be good value too. Okay, so that's the plant of the week today, or plants of the week. We're looking at berries. So I hope you enjoyed that. All right, so we now have a sneak peek of the Garden Gurus episode 10. Let's have a look at that. Thanks.
Hello and welcome to the Garden Gurus. I'm Nigel Ruck, and we've got a great episode for you this week, full of gardening advice and tips that you're going to love.
Geranium Big Red, one of the best geraniums we've ever seen in Australia. The climate is very similar to their native South Africa, so they just keep on growing.
Did you know that bulb planting isn't just an autumn thing? In my hot little hands, I have hippie aspirin bulbs. Now these are a retro favourite and come in a huge range of colours.
Today I've got some fresh coriander from Trev's garden, which I'll be making my family Mauritian samosas and a coriander yogurt with.
All right, get onto your TV tomorrow afternoon and have a look at that. It should be great. So now we're talking to Greg in Parkerville in the Perth Hills. I love Parkerville. It's such a beautiful spot to live, Greg. Greg says, morning, Joanne. Morning, Greg. We're in the process of redoing a new garden bed, about 30 by 10 metres, which then outlooks onto the bush. But looking at a grass style design, mass planting like Namandra, etc., just seeing if there's a particular type suited to our soils and weather here in the hills. Greg, you know, if you're producing a nice big bed like that, you can grow almost anything, you know, Dianellas, Lamandras, there's all sorts of things, and they're all out at the moment. In fact, the grasses are probably one of the easiest things to get hold of for me as a buyer at the moment. So have a look at that. Go on our website if you like. We've got all of ours listed at the moment that are available, and you can do a little bit of research on what, or call into your garden centre and have a chat with one of the horticulturalists. They'll certainly be able to help you. Perhaps you're close to Xantheria. Have a look, go over and speak to one of the girls there. They're very knowledgeable. Right, western suburbs of Melbourne, and Matthew has asked, how do we encourage native trees to go deeper with their roots? We had one or two fall over from the wet foliage recently because they have shallow root system. Yes, a lot of people think that you can just plant a eucalypt or a native and just let it go and it's going to be absolutely fine. It's not always. And you do see that in the winds and the odd tree just going completely over. And when you look at the root system, it does look really shallow. You don't get a lot of taproot on the eucalypts, but you do get a good root system. And if you can encourage that to go down, there's a couple of really easy things. You need to have good soil. So you want to make sure that your soil's not, if you're in the western suburbs of Melbourne, so it'll be fairly soft. I don't imagine that you've got a lot of rock or anything under there. But for those of you that have rock under the soil or so forth, that can stop your roots from going nice and deep. The other thing that can happen if you're using eucalypt trees in your garden, in your yard, rather than out in a big paddock area that a farmer would be having, is that if you're using sprinklers that are just a micro spray, then you tend to spray the topsoil and you don't get a lot of deep watering. So the deeper you can water the tree, the lower the roots will go, right? And the more root system that you can get also. So the heavier the root system, the bigger the root system, it's its anchor, and it's the less likely it is to fall over. So look at your watering, make sure that you deep water them and feed them well. You know, give them a fertilizer. I know that you don't have to fertilize them, but if you give them a fertilizer around the drip line, it will encourage the roots to go out, and the bigger the root system that you can develop in those trees, the better it is for the wind, for the wind. All right, so Sydney and Laura is saying, I have a small shady garden around the side of my house that only gets around 4 hours of afternoon sunlight. I've not had much luck getting any flowering plants to thrive in this spot. Have you got any suggestions? Well, Laura, 4 hours of sunlight should be enough for plants to flower. So I guess what I'd be looking at is your soil. And does your soil, is it acidic? Is it alkaline? If it's too alkaline, nothing wants to grow in it. And if it's too acidic, nothing wants to grow in it. So it might be that you're dealing with a problem in your soil rather than the plants that you've put in there. You want plants that obviously will take the afternoon sun, because it's going to be a hot, even though it's shaded all morning, it's going to be a hot time also. But yeah, have a look. Dig down 6 inches, take a tablespoon of that soil, and try not to use your hands to take it out, because that does change the acidity of it. Use a spoon or a trowel and take down to your local garden centre a tablespoon of soil, and they can do a pH test. or if they don't, buy a pH test kit. There's some very good ones out, and easy to use, just a couple of dollops of the pH liquid and then some powder on top of it that they provide, and that'll give you it. And they also have a little chart in there of what color it should come up and where you can see it. If you're seeing it head right into the purple shades or right up into the bright yellow shades or orange shades, you know that it's too far on one or the other, and that may well be the thing. The other thing you want to make sure is that you fertilize your plants well. If it's a flowering plant, you need to fertilize it, and usually on a regular basis. Maybe test your soil, and then if your soil is okay, maybe trial out it with some just some punnets, so that you're not spending a lot of money on plants that aren't going to survive there. And then speak to the garden centre that you go to and ask them, you know, what sort of flowers would they put in your area into that position, and they'll be able to help you even better. But look at the foundation. All right. We're going to go to Mario in South Australia, and Mario has asked, when is it time to plant a lemon tree? You can plant a lemon tree almost all year round, but the season for citrus is from October through. So that's when you see more citrus in the shops. You can see them all year round, but you find less varieties, sometimes none, depending on where you are. But yes, there are summer planting projects, so you can plant them when they're available. I know that our season here has been delayed, and it's only just last week that we received a good number of citrus, and even then it's been there's not many around. It's hard to get. So yeah, plant them in the summertime, and again, make sure that you plant them with some good compost in the soil. They like it a little bit on the acid side, so you can, and feed them with a good citrus fertilizer that's got a balance of minerals in it, and you'll find you get more lemons than what you need probably. Okay, so we're going to Hallie in the Perth Hills. I bought on the Garden Festival yesterday. Yes, we have our Perth Garden Festival on at the moment. So anyone in Perth, get down there. It's just going to be fantastic. I bought at the Garden Festival yesterday a dwarf mulberry. I'm wondering how to keep it growing on no higher than 2 meters. Thank you very much. Well, dwarf mulberries actually do grow to 4 meters. So you could safely bring it down to 3. 2, you might be having trouble getting it fruit. So I don't know that I would want to bring it down to 2. I guess if you put it into a pot, you still need a good size pot, and I would suggest something around 50 to 70 centimetres wide would be the way to do it. And that might hold it back a little bit, but I don't really think that you can bring it down to 2 meters and not affect the fruiting of it. And you're very lucky. No one can get dwarf mulberries at the moment, so they've obviously held on to them for the garden show. So any of you want dwarf mulberries, get down there, because that's where you'll find them. And Trish, she's in Killarbean Bay, New South Wales. Why are my cordylines splitting? All right. So Trish, there's a couple of different reasons they could be splitting. It could be that you're overwatering them, and that that's how they'll split. It can also be that you've had something attacking it, and so the plant is splitting. It depends where it's splitting. If it's splitting if it's splitting through the middle, then it's possibly had some damage, and then the wind is going to open it up, and it will split through the middle, and it's gone. It could be splitting on the bark, and it could be a fungal disease. And you might need to take a photo of that and go to your garden centre or send it in, and we can give you a better answer to exactly why it's splitting. Marlborough in Victoria, and Johnny has asked, my lemon tree has a bit of leaf curl, plenty of fertiliser and no sign of insect damage. Any reason why? Okay, again, it's really hard to know with leaf curl, because leaves can curl up this way, they can curl this way, and they can curl this way. I don't know if you saw that, but they can curl all different ways, and they all mean different things. So the ones curling under this way can mean a lack of boron. The ones curling up this way can be a lack of manganese. there's all sorts of things that can be assumed from what you've asked. So what I would suggest, you've got plenty of fertilizer, but it'd be interesting to know what the fertilizer is that you've got. So I say this all the time: try and get yourself a good balanced fertilizer with good minerals in it, macro and micro fertilizer minerals. The other thing, if you're feeding them just something that's high in nitrogen, and you're feeding them one product, not a good balanced one. And then the other thing I would suggest is that give it some trace elements. You can go down and say, I need manganese, but you're not necessarily a soil scientist. If you put too much manganese in, it locks up a whole lot of the other minerals, and then the plant it then starts curling a different way or showing other signs. So what I suggest to the gardener, and I use it myself, I don't try and guess how much. I will use a trace elements, a full trace element, so you get the full spectrum. I would give it a dose of trace elements and see what happens then. Just uncurl some of them, just to make sure that it's not leaf curl. That it's not leaf miner. You did say that you hadn't seen any bugs on it, so it most likely isn't. But for anybody that is listening, if your leaves are curled under or even up, fold them out, and if you see this little trail, it's leaf miner. And that's a whole different issue. You want to spray that then with some pest oil or eco oil, and that'll get rid of those. All right, so we're back in WA, in Pinjarra. It's a beautiful spot. And Kathy's asked, I have white mouldy stuff coming through between my carrots. I'm assuming they were never thinned out to do this. White mouldy stuff, well, it could actually be a mold it's okay in your soil. It could be a beneficial fungus that's working in your soil. I've actually not seen white mouldy stuff coming between carrots either. You do need to thin out carrots. I love planting them in the seed packets that are on tapes, and you just pull the tape out, put it in the soil, cover it up, and then you don't have to do any thinning. But you do need to thin them, and all sorts can happen. And I guess you can get you would get some fungal disease if it's really moist and then they're really close together. I would, again, I'm sorry, we're doing a bit of this today, but it's better that I don't give you an answer that actually isn't correct and you go and spend money on something and then find in 2 weeks' time the same thing is happening and you have to return with the same question to your garden centre. So what I would suggest is that you take a photo of it and take it down to your garden centre or send it in to us, and we'll have a good look at it. And then we can give you an answer of exactly what that is. I'm happy for you to send that into the Guildford Garden Centre if you need to get a quicker answer. Quicker as in not next week. Okay, Anne. Kathy, I hope that's helped you some. Toowoomba, we're in Toowoomba now, and Anne has asked, why do my pomegranates split before properly ripening into a nice red? Well, there's a few things that can happen there. It can be a rain incursion. If you can overwater them, can do that. You overfeed them, can do it also. So, if the weather changes and you all of a sudden should be getting nice spring weather and you're getting heavy rains, then that can certainly happen for them. If you overfeed a plant, it will also do that. A pomegranate, it will also split. I found that I took my pomegranates off the tree. I only had a couple that had split, and the rest were absolutely fine. So and they were the first of the season for me. So you might find that the ones that are coming through may not be as split, or may not be split at all. All right. So, hi, Deanne, and we don't know where Deanne's from, but hi, Joanne. Just wanting to know how I can get my golden canes to grow any faster as a screen. I am feeding with Dynamic Lifter and Sea Sol once a month. Okay, so Sea Sol is not a fertilizer. Sea Sol is a tonic for the soil, and it's very good. But you certainly don't want to overuse Sea Sol either, because it does have quite a bit of salt in it. So, look, once a month is not overdoing it, Deanne, and it's probably a really good idea to do it. Dynamic Lifter is based on a chicken pellet, so it's a chicken manure. So you should get lots of growth with that because chicken manure is more nitrogen. But golden canes aren't a fast-growing plant. So really, it's a patience. Keep doing what you're doing. I would be more inclined, rather than using dynamic lifter all the time, I would probably, honey sandwiches every day is not good for you. It's the same thing with plants. You need to give them a bit of diversity. So I would get a good balanced mineral fertilizer and give it a good dose of that also. Otherwise, it's just a matter of either putting more plants in between or just having some patience. All right. So Jamie is in Geelong from Victoria. I'm planting into the ground a few trees, apples, plums, and apricot. Is it fine to plant them now, or is there any other season more appropriate for this? Okay, all of the plum trees, all the palm trees, and the stone fruit usually start selling in the garden centres in winter. Here in Perth, we receive them usually the end of June to the beginning of July. I'm pretty sure that the eastern states get their deliveries before us because, of course, it's colder, and so they get theirs in June. So that's when it's best to plant. One, because generally your soil's nice and moist and it's cooler and it's good for the root system, but also that's when they're mostly available. However, garden centres like myself, like mine, who specialise in trees, we carry them all year round. And you can plant all year round. You can plant anything all year round pretty much if you can get it. You just have to be aware of looking after that. So if you're going to plant in the summertime, you've got to be able to water them. You've got to be able to not be so busy that you can't keep up all the maintenance that it needs to get it through. You want to make sure that you put lots and lots of mulch on the soil also. Whether it's winter or summer, I believe in that anyway, but certainly in the summertime. So if you wanted to plant them now, you can. You just have to watch them. Make sure that you go to a reputable garden centre with good stock, that they look after their stock, there's not a lot of weeds in them and things like that. And talk to them about how best to plant into your soil, whether you've got clay. If you've got clay soil, you're probably best to wait until winter time and make sure that through the summertime, maybe start preparing that hole. So dig the hole as much as you can, provide it with lots of gypsum so that we can, lots of gypsum so that the soil, the clay will break up and allow the roots and the nutrients to go down into the soil deep. Otherwise, you'll have problems through the summertime. Otherwise, plant any time of the year. Just be aware that you need to give it the attention it needs through the hotter months. And also, you may not get the varieties. I know that often by the end of August, September, and now especially, there are varieties that we just do not. If you look on our website, there's out of stock, out of stock, out of stock, out of stock, and you won't get those until next year. So have a look around wintertime. Maybe start talking with your garden centre. Find out who in your area grows fruit trees and retails fruit trees, and then go from there. All right, so we're in WA. I'm sorry, you've also asked any tips for planting these trees. Absolutely. If you're in clay soil, using gypsum and good organic matter, dig the hole twice as big as the pot, twice as big, deep, and twice as wide. If it's a potted plant, if it's a bare-rooted plant, you need to then mound the bottom of the hole with all the good compost and put your roots out over that soil. If you're in sandy soil or a looser loam soil, you want to make sure that you get some good compost into the soil, and just the same thing. Dig the hole twice as wide and twice as deep. Make sure that you get some good moisture into that soil when you first plant it so that the roots don't dry out. Even use a little bit of sea salt on it. It helps the roots establish. Sorry about that, Jamie. Okay, so we're back in WA, and Linda has asked, I live in the coastal strip north of Perth suburbs. How can I get my jacaranda to flower? Well, it may be that I don't know, jacarandas just flower, don't they? I mean, I've never seen a jacaranda that hasn't flowered as easily. But it depends on how old your jacaranda is. It may be that it needs some good fertilizer. You might be fertilizing it with a nitrogen fertilizer rather than a good balanced fertilizer. Otherwise, it could also be that it's not pollinating, it's not throwing flowers because it's too windy. It's trying to survive rather than to live. So, look, I'm not giving you a very good answer here at all, Linda. And I think what I'll do is after the show, I'm going to have a look at that again and I'm going to type you an answer, okay? All right. So, sorry, Linda. Ringwood. So that's in Victoria, and Lauren had asked, and she says, hi again. Hi again, Lauren. Any tips to speed up creating a hedge out of citrus trees along my fence line? I think they're a few years old, planted by the previous owner. Do you have any tips to speed up the growth of bay trees also? Excuse me. Well, bay trees are quite slow growing, and the growing season they're not, but during the rest of the season they kind of settle in and they just sit there and do their thing. The only thing you can really do is fertilize a plant to get it to grow faster. You can fertilize it monthly, and I guess this is where you would use a high nitrogen fertilizer, but be aware when you do that, you'll have less fruit. So you then have to swap when you get it to that size you're looking for, and swap it to a good balanced fertilizer. So you could do that for the first year. I wouldn't. See, yours are a few years old. You could certainly try it. I wouldn't push them too hard, but try that. Try it with a good fertilizer. Citrus like to be fed 4 to 6 weeks. They like a little more often than a lot. So I'm guessing that you could use that every month. You do the 4 weeks, and that should push it on. Just as the previous question about the golden cane, that's the same thing. Feed it monthly, push it on. All right. Oh my goodness, we're at the end. I didn't realize it's all gone. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your questions. We went fast and tried to do them as quick and as efficiently as possible. So if we didn't get to your questions this week, come back next week and we'll help you with that. Make sure you hit the like button, share it around for us. And apologies if we didn't reach the questions, but we will. Jess will be sending out a message to all our seed winners after today's show. We'll be back next Friday at 9 p.m. Western Standard Time. And remember, you can always jump onto our website and catch up on our previous stories from the Garden Gurus at thegardengurus.tv or your YouTube channel, thegardengurus.tv. Also, please make sure you tune in for the 9th episode of The Garden Gurus tomorrow, airing on Channel 9 on Saturday. And all of those people that are in Perth, get down to the Flower and Garden show. By all accounts, it's a great show this year. I'll be down there on Saturday having a look after I've done Curtain Radio. So have a nice week, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Still is Australia's most trusted brand of garden power tools, backed by 95 years of German engineering excellence. To get your hands on their range, visit your local Still dealer today or visit still.com.au.
Garden Express are Australia's leading mail ordering service, offering a wide range of quality gardening products. Each week on the Garden Gurus Live, the team at Garden Express will share a weekly offer. So make sure after today's show you jump online and visit their website.